Welcome to Bo Family EV. I hope you'll like and subscribe. It would mean a lot to me. Let's go. All right, guys, so I am here with my loaner F-150 STX from my local dealer. This is the truck I made the post about on X slash Twitter, X Twitter, if you will, that I'm using while my truck is getting some work done at the shop. 75,000 views and a ton of comments and crazy misconceptions on that post that I did. And I thought I would kind of explain in a little bit better detail with this video on why I made the post that I did. And I basically pointed out that this truck is getting 700 miles of range, and it's actually rated to get close to 900 on the highway. I know these are EPA things and they're not exact numbers, but regardless, I think the point is made that this truck, which comes in with an MSRP right around $50,000, is getting 700 miles of range. And it has a lot of the attributes and character of my Lightning. Of course, there's some things missing, and importantly, they are totally different trucks in terms of powertrain. But when you get inside, it is very much F-150, just like the Lightning is. And this is, of course, on purpose. They share a lot of the common parts. And of course, the bed is pretty much exactly the same, which allows things like tonneau covers and toolboxes and bed liners and bed mats and everything to be shared, which is fantastic. Same thing with the interior when you're talking about things like floor mats that go inside and just the layout and space. It is pretty much identical to what you're going to see in the Lightning or any of these F-150 series trucks of the similar year. So as you look inside, you can see the space is pretty much exactly the same as what we see in the Lightning. There are carpeted floors in this one. There is no underseat storage, but again, this is kind of more of a base spec as an STX compared to my Lariat. Compared to the other Lariats, there's no sunroof, of course, in this, but there are equivalents. The seats are not heated or ventilated. Neither is the steering wheel. The mirrors are not power folding mirrors. So there's little attributes and tweaks, of course, that explain some of the price differences when you're talking about a truck like this. But the point of the post wasn't to say that I am anti-EV or to say in any way that I was unhappy with my EV experience or that I would ever go back to a gas vehicle. I wouldn't. It does have the solid rear axle. It doesn't have the independent rear suspension. It doesn't drive anywhere near as smooth or quiet, of course, as my Lightning does. But importantly, it is an impressive truck. You can see why this is the #1 selling vehicle in America. So I last had a gas F-150 2008, and it got 400 miles, 15 miles to the gallon. This EcoBoost will get 700 plus miles, 25 miles on the highway, 19 around the city. That's impressive stuff, guys. Now, I know. First thing you're going to say is, hey, how do you get that many miles from the truck? How much does it cost to fill it up? How big is that gas tank? And you're right. That is a 36-gallon gas tank, $150 to fuel it. But I got to tell you, in California, if I'm using the public charging, Tesla, EVgo, Electrify America, I'm going to spend about that same amount to charge up for an equivalent number of miles for the Lightning, unless maybe I've got one of the membership plans. Hey, gotta love gas vehicles. At home, of course, it's a totally different story, especially if, like me, you have solar. With home charging, you'd pay as little as 33, 34 cents a kilowatt hour. There is time of use charges though, so depending on what time of day you're trying to charge, those prices can increase dramatically. Now, because I installed solar 7 years ago, it's already paid for itself. And at this point, I don't pay a dime. My energy is free, which is one of the many reasons that the Lightning is an ideal use for me and the local driving that I do. I'm not seeing any energy costs at all. So again, I'm not anti-EV here, guys. I'm just pointing out what it's like to take someone that's not like me and you, that's already bought in, that's already gone through the steps, someone that is new. This stuff is very, very different because, unlike gas, it's not as simple as how many kilowatts is the battery and let's get energy into it. There's losses here. And so, with those losses, you're going to take a 120 kilowatt hour battery, but you're going to have to put 130, 135 kilowatts of energy because of losses. Or when it's very cold outside and you're plugging in the vehicle to precondition the battery in the morning and precondition the cabin to make sure you get your maximum range out of it, that again is taking energy. You're not losing 10% of your fuel when you're filling up your gas tank at the pump. You're not going to have that stuff spilling over onto the ground and paying for those losses. It's a different thing that people have to learn and understand and accept. It's not a simple math equation of how big is your battery and how many miles per kilowatt do you get. There is more to that, like everything else we've talked about owning an EV and how things affect range. Again, temperature, speed, altitude, wind. These are factors that most people just don't want to think about, don't want to deal with. So we need battery and technology and efficiency that is so robust that it just doesn't matter. But today, it still very much does. So would I switch back to a gas F-150? Absolutely not, never. But this isn't about me. It's never been about me. It's been about these guys and those guys, and especially this guy in the Ram Power Wagon. It's about these truck owners and these car drivers and the folks that don't know and haven't embraced and aren't familiar with what it is to drive an EV because they've driven gas all their life. It's people like my wife who just want to park here and wake up in the morning and not think about what it is to have to deal with any of the stuff we've talked about. She wants to be able to plug in here, leave in the morning, and not have to worry about any of that other stuff or understand it. So this is the market we're talking about. This was the point of the post. It is a totally different thing to win that market where we're selling so many gas F-150s. It's the number one selling vehicle in the entire US. How do we convert them to electric? And this is the dilemma. It's a great truck. And when you're up against a great truck, it's not as simple as saying, hey, EVs are better, smoother, quieter, cheaper. It's much more complex because someone's got to use this and feel comfortable and confident doing so. As we start to look at the exterior of the truck, you're going to notice things like options like the running board. I obviously have running boards on mine, but I have the zone lighting that this truck lacks. Back here, the bed, like I said, is pretty much identical. So you'd have to pay for spray-in bed liner or a drop-in bed liner. I did a spray-in with mine. The tailgate on this one does not have the integrated step. I know there's options for that. And of course, this is not powered, so you do have to manually do this one. That was a bit of a drop. Over here, it does not have the Pro Power. This was a big deal for the Lightning for me, being in California, where electricity sometimes does get turned off for wildfires and storms, and of course, just the way that the grid is here. The Pro Power was vital for me. It was one of the big reasons also that I never considered Rivian. I needed that 240 out. So, but otherwise, this bed is identical. Doesn't have the cool bar and things that you would see on the Lightning, but if you were to get the XLT or Flash, it wouldn't have that either. Back here, I have a sliding rear window that this lacks, but again, XLT and Flash would also lack that same sliding rear window. So otherwise, though, when you're thinking about the price point, you can see all those little things are what add up on the electric vehicle to cause it to be much more expensive. And of course, the battery is the big thing. The battery is going to be the big cost, and that's where the technology has to change. We've got to get that price down. As we climb inside the truck here, you've got the grab handles, which is something that I know I appreciate, as do the kids. But you can see here just the digital dash. Looks somewhat different and somewhat familiar at the same time. You can go through and get your trip, your calm view, which the Lightning also has. And again, you can see 713 miles, started up even higher than that. It does have the 12-inch display, which I got to be honest, is more than enough, because the 15-inch display down here would then have your temperature and your audio components that are on the screen that you can't really change. So I actually think this 12-inch screen is more than enough. Here I've got Apple CarPlay, so you can change that view and you can have your music settings, your podcasts. You can expand this out to full screen. You can have all of your apps that are there. So I've got my different things with here you've got, where is the car scanner, better route planner, all of those kind of Spotify podcasts, all of that kind of stuff is all integrated. So it's great to be able to basically transfer all of that right back to the vehicle, right? And so that's something that these vehicles share, of course. Inside, again, really nice. I love these seats, the little trim, all of this kind of stuff. Like, I don't feel like I'm missing out. You know, there's a home link button that I really like having for my garage doors and stuff on this. But otherwise, you know, it is very much F-150. You're not missing out on much when you're talking about what's really important. Of course, it goes without saying that there is no frunk space in here, something that I have become addicted to and absolutely love. Inside here, of course, you have your engine that you would expect to see with all of the different things that can go wrong with a gas truck, your serpentine belts, your transmission, your fuel pump, all of the aspects that we know can cause problems down the road. So this is something that, of course, I do not miss at all. The oil changes, the filters, all of the stuff that we have come to know when it comes to gas vehicles. I love this as a space with the power and all of the things just from a functionality aspect as a father and having two young kids. When we went and did our road trip, this was an absolutely pivotal space in order to keep luggage and snacks and drinks. And we do groceries and stuff in here and really freeing up the space that's inside the truck for the family. So I will always love a frunk. I will probably never buy an EV that doesn't have usable frunk space. I've been so spoiled by that frunk on the Lightning. So let's get to the whole point of the post to begin with, which is that, look, Ford sells upwards of 750,000 F-Series trucks, and Lightnings sell maybe 30,000. Why? What's going on? When the Lightning does have the better, smoother, quieter ride, it does have some upgraded features. It's an absolutely fantastic truck. Why aren't they selling? Price and range unavoidably are the things that we've got to catch up on. When I can get this vehicle, again, for $50,000, and with all the specials and deals, maybe I can get a Lightning for, I don't know, 58, mid 60s, with all the different discounts and government incentives and 0% APR and all the different specials Ford does. I can get a pretty good deal on a Lightning, but it's not going to give me 700 miles of range. It's not going to give it to me for $50,000. And I think you can get it down even lower than that when you're working with dealers and different deals and times of years. So I get it. Nobody needs to drive 700 miles. This is the thing though, guys. Right now, when I drive my Lightning on the trip that I just did down to Southern California, be sure to check out that video, by the way, had a great time, loved it, but the truck dictated where I stopped. I didn't get to do that, and I had to do some planning. It reminded me, and I've said this before, kind of like planning for a flight when I used to fly Cessnas. You got to keep in mind, what's the temperature? What's the wind outside? What elevation changes will I have? What speed am I going to be going? All of these have a dramatic and important impact on the range and driving experience. Obviously, we plug in it at home. We don't pay for electricity because I have solar and it's been paid off. And so those are fantastic for me. And I have that ability to do it. Not everybody does. So it's, again, a perfect fit for me. I primarily use it around town and for commutes. So again, the standard range Lightning has been an absolute joy to own. But on this road trip, of course, I plugged it into 100% overnight, warmed the battery, warmed the cabin, made sure I got all the best range possible because we were leaving early morning with some chilly temperatures, not cold by any stretch. Of course, it's California, but you do have to think about it. And then you had to plan out that elevation change between the Bay Area and the Central Valley, again, between the Central Valley and LA, where you've got the grapevine. You got to know about those things. When the wind starts blowing, you got to know about those things. Now, in this case, traffic was so bad, I got 2.8 miles per kilowatt hour, which was fantastic for my range. But if I was going 80, 85 miles an hour, it would have had the opposite effect. These are all things you have to consider. You don't even think about this with gas. So what about gas? What makes it so difficult for a gas driver to transition to an EV? Well, part of it is that with a gas vehicle, you can stop whenever you want, wherever you want, and you don't have to consider all of those factors we just talked about. I have to make sure that when I look at a charging stop, I have to think about amenities, food, bathrooms, things for the kids. One of the places we went in Tahoe, they close the bathrooms at a certain time of night because it's next to a mall. And the area itself closes at a certain time of night. It's not open 24 hours. You got to consider those things. With gas, whenever you decide you want to stop, you stop. And you got plenty of range to change your mind. And with an EV, that's not always the case, especially not when it comes to these big lumbering trucks. It's just a different deal, different thing to factor in. I'm not saying better or worse, but what I'm saying is for the average customer who goes out there and looks at value, they're looking at initial cost, they're looking at how many miles I can get for the price that I'm paying. And these things are unavoidable things that we have to conquer. I know there's LFP batteries coming. I know there's efficiencies coming. I think solid state is going to be a game changer. Look, for those people that are driving gas trucks long distances and towing and live in the middle of the country and have long travel distances between towns or supplies to go get feed and hay and even groceries and loading up things and towing equipment and farm animals, like, I get it. I'm not a guy that's trying to mandate EVs, okay? I'm not a guy that's hating on the diesel super duties. Look, I know what the Lightning is. I know the tool that it's made for. I know where its weaknesses are. And I'm a guy that's an EV enthusiast, but I am not an evangelical. And I'm not here to rail against the evils of gas. There are plenty of reasons I don't like it. I'd much rather use my own produced domestic energy, domestic produced vehicles. Like to see these batteries produced in America. I don't want to feed into the foreign oil machine. But look, I'm not going to tell you what to drive. I'd say drive what you love. I love the EVs, and I'd like to see them be more competitive with the gas vehicles. I know that we're not there in a lot of ways, but in a lot of ways we are. In a lot of ways, these EVs will do everything the average person needs. So I'm the type of person that just wants to put that out there. What should we be shooting for? We've got to get the battery chemistry and technology to the point where they're mass produced, hundreds of thousands of vehicles, so we can get the scale up and the price down. And we need that solid state technology so that these trucks can get large value, large ranges for the value that you're paying. Right now, they're just not doing it. I do think that until we get in some close parity with gas vehicles, this huge market, the number one selling vehicle in America being trucks, and specifically the F-Series trucks, it is not going to be able to smoothly transition the way we've seen with cars. The Model 3 and the Model Y are very much awesome values because of the scale and the price they've gotten them down to when you compare them to the Civic or the Camry or any of those types of things that are out there. You can see why they do well, and we're just not there yet with trucks. And this was my point of the post. Look, this is what folks are seeing when they're out there buying these $50,000 and under trucks, getting hundreds and hundreds of miles of range, being able to tow, not having to think about all these things with route planning. These are the things that we have to conquer to get to the mass percentages of people, to say nothing about the charging infrastructure in multifamily units, apartments, condos, townhomes, getting charging out there in shopping centers and over at the hotels and all of these other things to make the infrastructure support the transition to electric vehicles. California is doing a lot of changes coming up in 26. New construction will mandate a certain amount of spots depending on the parking that's in an area, how many have to be EVs. That's going to be a big deal. I do think charging at home is just a no-brainer. If you can charge at home, it is so convenient, and most people never need the type of miles that this truck can do. But the point is that people in America are people of excess, people of what if and what about, and they want to be prepared, even overly prepared, unnecessarily prepared. But that is the reality, and to deny that, to ignore that, is not going to help us make the transition. We've got to be competitive, and we've got to get closer. And I know people will disagree. I saw a lot of the different comments from both sides of the folks misunderstanding the point of what I was trying to say. Hopefully this clears up some of it. I think the truck, it shares so many of the great things that I love about driving an F-150. You can see why it's the number one selling vehicle in America. If this thing is going to be electric, it's got to deliver on the value and on the type of range that these guys maybe don't need, but certainly think they need. And for those that actually need it, there needs to be a solution for them other than throwing 250 kilowatts of battery underneath it with all that weight and all that cost, we're not going to hit parity that way. So I hope this video is entertaining. I hope this video was informative. I hope at least you understand the perspective, whether you agree with it or not. I'd love to hear what you think. Check out my other videos, like and subscribe, support us. I appreciate you guys tagging along. We do these types of conversations on the Turn Down for What podcast as well. So I hope you'll join us there. I hope you'll join me for more. Again, click that like, subscribe, that bell. Check out my other videos. Drop comments. Let me know what you think about all of this. I reply to them, and I love seeing them. It helps my engagement. It helps me get the video out there more. So let me know what you think about that transition, and we'll see you on the next video.